First, though, this morning, our top story, and crowds of campaigners are descending on Hastings today, calling for changes to the current abortion law.
The problems with the current law are that it denies women's fundamental rights. So in 2017, a woman still can't choose for herself to have an abortion. Two doctors must decide whether she meets the criteria laid out in the 1967 Abortion Act. So we believe women should be trusted to make their own decisions about their own pregnancies.
Well, today is the 50th anniversary of that Abortion Act in 1967. It allows women to have terminations, but the thing is, to do so, they need to get permission from two doctors, and that's Celia Wilson from the Women's Equality Party. She says that she wants that to change.
We're visiting her constituency office in Hastings today to deliver 400,000 permission slips because they represent the number of times permission was sought for an abortion in the last year alone. So the permission slips, we believe, represent the extraordinary weight of distrust in women. It's 143 stone of paperwork at their full size.
Listening to that is Maria Caulfield, who's the Lewis MP, who's been vocal in opposition to decriminalising abortion and removing these safeguards. And we're also joined this morning by Ariane Shavesi, who is, forgive me, it's just moved in front of my very eyes, lecturer in medical ethics and humanities at Brighton and Sussex Medical School. Maria Caulfield, good morning to you. Tell me your views on this demonstration today.
Well, I'm obviously concerned by the narrative that's going around that women don't have easy access to abortion because, in my 2 years of being an MP, I get people come and see me about all sorts of reasons, housing issues, benefits issues. I've never had one woman come and see me because she couldn't get easy access to an abortion. And the risks of changing the law and decriminalising abortion is that vulnerable women are at real risk of being forced into abortion. We've got women who are, can be forced in by parents, by partners, and, there are risks also involved in having an abortion. So it's not a risk-free procedure, whether it's an early stage and certainly at a later stage of pregnancy. So I have some concerns that for the vast majority of women, the law is working right now. But if we were to change the law, the most vulnerable women would then be under increased risk and pressure.
It's interesting you say forced into abortion. What you mean from family, from others trying to give advice and sway their opinion?
There's increasing evidence. If you look at countries where abortion has been decriminalised, in parts of Australia, for example, women are now can be forced by a partner or family to have an abortion based on the sex of the baby, because they either want a boy or a girl, and that's a worrying trend. And we know of women in abusive relationships, for example, where a partner may not want that woman to have a child, that they can be coerced into having an abortion. And the safeguards of having two doctors to see you before that, it gives a safe space to a woman to have an opportunity to speak to someone outside of their relationship, to see if that's something that they do want to do, if they've thought about it, if they're comfortable with it. And I think that's an important safeguard to have in place.
So the counter-argument obviously being that there's just far too much red tape.
Well, red tape, you would, for any other medical procedure, even if you're getting your varicose veins done, you need to go and see a doctor. For such a thing as an abortion, which is such an emotive issue, we're saying that should just be read, people should be able to walk in off the street, not talk through the procedure with a doctor or a medical professional, not know the risks involved, not have the chance to maybe change their mind if it's not something that they really feel comfortable having, or, maybe having it, have a few days space to think about it. Abortion isn't a risk-free procedure, and it's got all the emotional ties. It's a very difficult decision for any woman to undertake, and we're saying that they shouldn't have any opportunity to speak to a medical professional. I think that's a dangerous step.
Maria Caulfield, thank you very much indeed. As I mentioned, we have Ariane Shavesi with me, who's a lecturer in medical ethics and humanities at Brighton and Sussex Medical School. Good morning to you.
Morning, Dominic.
Thanks for joining us today. What do you make of the law as it stands at the moment?
Well, I think the law as it stands at the moment, it's 50 years old, so it's an old law, and in some ways, and the world has changed a lot over those 50 years, and I think attitudes have changed too. Personally, I think it isn't fit for purpose in the way that it represents women's right to make this decision. And what you'll see now at the moment, the British Medical Association and the Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology are on board with the idea that the law should change. And the reason for that is that they obviously want to provide better care. And they want to create an environment of care and kind of try and dissolve this environment of stigma at the moment. So the idea here is that they want women to be able to access more comfortable abortions and to be able to access them more easily. So what we know is that all of the studies which have been done globally show us that liberalising abortion doesn't end up in more abortions. It just ends up in safer abortions. And that's the idea here. Doctors want to be able to they want to be able to give good advice. I think one of the things that Maria slightly misrepresents is that those who are calling for decriminalisation at the moment do want for these medications to be regulated as any other medication would be regulated. So there would be a conversation with a doctor and medical advice would, of course, be available. So I think, we have to look at it within that framework as well. We just want women to be able to discuss these pregnancies without the threat of a kind of criminal action.
Sure. Okay, Maria, it's a bit of an outdated law there.
Well, I would disagree, because the actual law doesn't put women who have an abortion at risk of being prosecuted. It puts the person who carries out the procurer of abortion at risk of prosecution. And in the last few years, there have been very few instances of any prosecutions, 2 in the last couple of years, one of which was a man who badly beat up his partner, and she had an abortion as a result. And the man was prosecuted, not the woman. So actually, the safeguards in the law are there to protect women, the most vulnerable women. And what I would say is, the law may be 50 years old, and actually we need to look at the law in terms of reducing the limit of abortion, because with medical advances, babies now, around the 22-week mark, have a chance of being viable if they were born. And babies, say at 24 weeks, have an 80% chance of survival if they're born at 24 weeks. It's down to 40% at 23 weeks. But that's a significant number of viable babies who are then being aborted.
Okay, Ariane, final word with you.
Well, I think the thing to remember is, 87% of abortions are performed at 12 weeks or less. So most abortions are really, really early abortions. Many of them are medical abortions. And obviously, as you know, yesterday Scotland has, enabled women to be able to take these medical abortion pills at home, having been prescribed them by doctors. So, I think that focusing on kind of late-term abortions doesn't reflect the reality of the sorts of abortions that people are having.
Okay. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed. Interesting debate, this one, this protest taking place today. Maria Caulfield there, the Lewis MP, joining us, and also Ariane Chavesi, who is a lecturer in medical ethics and humanities at Brighton and Sussex Medical School. This is BBC Sussex Breakfast. It is 16 minutes now past 8.